Okay, so I'm sitting here doing my taxes, and this kind of came up, and I wanted to tell everyone about this because I think it's important to understand all the incompetence and ineptness and bullshit lies and scumbag pieces of fucking garbage out there who will insist up and down, irrespective of what kind of qualifications you have, they'll think that they're right because they're ignorant motherfucking bastards. So what am I talking about? Well, and this, I get all the time, people email us, hey, which broker would you recommend? They all suck. The Jewish mafia controls the whole industry, even the online brokers. I mean, why do you think there's only a small handful of online brokers? I mean, you think I could start an online brokerage firm? It's much more difficult than trying to get into the auto dealership business, okay? It's a mafia, okay? But, they all suck. They all suck big time. They're all shit. They're all garbage. And they're all just as criminal as full-service Wall Street firms. It's all the same shit. As a matter of fact, I could argue convincingly so that these days, since, say, about 10 years ago, ever since that time, the online brokerage firms are in many ways more fraudulent, more criminal than the full-service main Wall Street firms in certain regards because of their involvement in the media, right? They're basically funding, the online brokerage firms to a large extent are funding scam artist networks like CNBC, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, all that bullshit. Anyway, let me get to the point because I think it's a good lesson. And I wish I'd had the conversations recorded, and I'm going to be doing this in the future. I'm going to be recording conversations, and so, some of you are going to be hearing, I don't know to what extent I'm going to release them, but you're going to get to hear when I talk to brokers at numbskull boiler room firms and so forth, so that when I talk about Ken Fisher, when I talk about him running a boiler room shop, you're going to understand why I say that. Because I've talked to the numbskulls, and you're gonna hear firsthand how that's a boiler room. Or when I talk to some of the pinhead numbskulls at Euro Pacific Capital, I mean, it's going to be complete comedy for you guys. So, I may keep it closed to members and clients. We'll have to see. So here's the deal. I sold several shares of a particular security a couple of years ago, and within 30 seconds of doing that, I remembered, man, I sold the security because I wanted to get the tax loss, okay? I wanted to get the tax loss. I had good reason to believe that it wasn't going anywhere over the next 30 days, and I wanted to capture that loss and then repurchase it. Within 30 seconds, I remembered, I was like, wait a second, I purchased shares of this within the past 30 days. I was pretty sure that I wanted to check. I checked real quick, and sure enough, I had purchased shares of that same security within 30 days prior to my current sell. And of course, you cannot do that. You have to avoid sell or purchase of the same security or even similar securities within 30 days on either side of that current transaction. So you cannot buy or sell any shares of that security anytime within 30 days prior to the day which you want to get the tax loss, or 30 days after. You have to wait that window period, 60 days or 61 days, okay? So, and you can't deal with options. As a matter of fact, here's kind of something that I actually learned on my own I actually learned this through, I can't remember how I learned it, but it's something that's not that well publicized at all. Even if you have an IRA, let's say if you have securities in a retail account that is, a taxable account, and you have the same securities, or let's say you don't even have any securities in your IRA. Well, if you sell the securities in a retail account and you want to get the tax loss, you cannot buy those securities or similar securities, like securities. You can't buy those securities even in your IRA until after you wait until 30 days has expired. Likewise, you cannot have purchased or sold those securities within your IRA even 30 days prior to that sell, okay? Or it will nullify your tax loss, even though an IRA is a tax deferrable account. So it actually doesn't make that much sense, but they basically want to keep people from shuttling back and forth. I don't think it's really fair, but that's just the way it is. But I wanted to point that out because I have to believe that there's many people that do not realize that little caveat. It's not really publicized or explained much, and so it's important to understand. That isn't, unless, of course, by chance they've changed the rule and I'm wrong, but I think that it is still in place. Anyway, so the point is that I realized within 30 seconds, let's say I caught it within 30 seconds or a minute, and I said, oh shit, I've got to bust this trade, okay? And so that's just, busting a trade is just a term, it's just an expression. Basically means, you got to get out of the trade. Because what I did prior to calling E-Trade, I knew I was going to be in queue for some bullshit automated crap. And I was thinking, well, you know what? It could take 10, 15, 20 minutes to get a hold of somebody, right? So what I'm going to do to help them resolve this situation is I'm going to immediately repurchase those shares. So I immediately, once I discovered that I had screwed up, I immediately repurchased the shares, okay? I didn't want to wait around for the numbskulls. So I did that, and then I wanted to call them up and bust the trade. In other words, I wanted to scratch it from the records as if it did not happen because it was a mistake. And there was not going to be any loss or gain. It was basically the same price, maybe a penny different. But I told them I was willing to eat any loss, any difference. But the main thing is I wanted that trade busted because it was several thousands of dollars that I was able to claim as a tax loss. But because I purchased shares within 30 days prior to that current transaction, that current sell, that tax loss was going to be nullified unless I could get the trade busted. Now, I knew to do this because working on Wall Street at a Wall Street firm, a real brokerage house, full service where you've got a financial advisor, this is done. This is part of the service. But apparently the numbskull pinhead pieces of garbage at E-Trade, and I have to believe it's Schwab too. I have stories about Schwab. They're all a bunch of criminal scumbag pieces of shit. That's just a fact. And they're all incompetent fucking pinheads. All of them. I mean, just look at Liz Ann Saunders, the chief strategist, right? She's a fucking moron. She's an airhead. She has no fucking clue what's going on. And she follows the coattails of, main Wall Street analysts and strategists. She follows their asses, and she's still fucking clueless. But anyway, the point is that, so I talked to some person in the tax area, whatever, told them the situation. Said, oh, no, we can't do this. Oh, don't worry. It's going to be, the guy was convinced. He was convinced, oh, no, it's okay, because it's all going to go out, change your basis, and when you sell later on, it's all going to be factored in. I said, you don't understand. I don't care about basis. I don't care about a new basis. I want my fucking tax loss for this year. See, I couldn't get through to the guy over and over again. Over and over again, over and over again. Oh, no, I guarantee you. Oh, yeah. Oh, you sure about that? You guarantee. You guarantee. So the guy was saying this and that. I knew I was right. I told him my background. I said, listen, I know what's going on. What are you talking about? The bottom line is that the guy's guaranteeing me. It's kind of like, when someone keeps telling you over and over again, and they're so confident and sure, you start to question yourself. You think, well, yeah, maybe they've changed the way they're doing things, Maybe there's a different rule now. So I was pretty sure that the guy was fucking clueless. That's why I made sure he guaranteed to me. And I said, listen, we're going to follow up on this, and if I don't get my tax loss on my 1099, if I don't get my tax loss, you're in deep trouble. Sure enough, it was just as I thought. There was no tax loss. This guy's a fucking numbskull, okay? I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. He seemed like a nice guy, but it's shocking that I said, look, the bottom line is I don't agree with you. You're telling me this and that. The easiest way is to bust this trade, to remove it from the records, because I purchased it back immediately. Same price, bust it, remove it from the records. No, he wouldn't do it. Oh, we can't do it. We can't do it, right? So the bottom line, folks, the moral to the story is you can't rely on online brokers. They're fucking numbskulls. They're liars. They're pieces of trash. They're pinheads. They're idiots. And I'll tell you, and the fact is that E-Trade is responsible for this. If it was more money, I mean, it was a good amount of money, potential tax loss. But was it enough to justify getting an attorney involved? I would sue the fuck out of them if it were. These motherfucking pieces of shit. They're pieces of trash. And, E-Trade, they all suck, but fuck E-Trade. And I can tell you, Schwab, I want to say fuck Schwab as well. I really don't even know what to do. I've tried all of them. Trade stations, a fucking disaster. Customer service, these guys are got their heads up their asses. They're all a bunch of fucking losers. And I would say, I don't know, everyone has their own situation. My personal situation, being an experienced professional, knowledgeable professional in the financial industry, me having to deal with these fucking numbskull pinhead pieces of garbage who are ready, willing, and able to lie to me or to present their inept knowledge to me. I think for me, the solution is just to call them up and just abuse them and treat them like shit and tell them that they're fucking morons. I think that's kind of the solution. Because really, I don't have a choice. Where am I supposed to go? Where are we supposed to go? In an ideal world where the Jewish mafia didn't have complete control over the financial industry, we would have dozens and dozens of online brokers, right? In a truly ideal world that wasn't run by the criminal Jewish mafia, we wouldn't even pay more than a dime per transaction for a stock trade. We wouldn't. But of course, you have all the Jewish mafia with their hands in the pot. You see, I mean, think about it. You're talking about a mafioso that charges huge amounts of money just to get access to live stock tickers, right? To live ask and bids, right? If you want to see the bid ask, current price, trading price, last trading price, you want to see trading volume, all this shit, current, real time. If you just want to see what the S&P 500 is, or the Dow, or any other index, did you know that you have to pay a lot of money? Every website that gives you this is why many sites don't give you real time. It's delayed by 20 minutes, right? This is very expensive. It costs a lot of money. I mean, do you think in a world, a modern day that we live in, supposedly, whereby the vast majority of individuals, at least in the U.S., have now been put into a 401k, a self-directed retirement plan. A self-directed basically means it's not a pension plan. In other words, you have to be more on top of your retirement. You have an IRA, you have a profit sharing, or you have a 401k. The point is that it's not 1950 where most people were in pensions that had retirement plans, where pensions were managed by professional money managers, right? Today, retirement accounts are retail accounts. Don't you think that with all the money going in, all these fees and all this shit, that people should have free access to all this data, right? Of course they should. You should be given free access to all this data. And I'm not even talking about if you have an account. Even if you don't have an account with these, because all these online brokers, they got to pay for this data. They don't get to show it for free. They have to pay, right? All these websites, they got to pay. They have to pay for it. And the reality is stock trade should be a dime. They should be a dime, okay? But no, we got the Jewish mafia wanting to take a piece out of the pie every single transaction. I'm not even going to get into that criminal organization because I'll get too pissed off thinking about all the fraud that they commit. But anyway, I just want to point out it's really a fucked up situation with the online brokers. And I've got so many other stories how I've gotten screwed so bad. Order execution's been a big problem, especially with Schwab. There's major order execution problems with Schwab. I can guarantee you there's a lot of shit going on. There's a lot of fraud going on. When you've worked in the industry and you're doing a lot of trades and you're pretty perceptive and you're pretty observant, you know when you put an order in, a market order, you know based upon your knowledge of looking at the bid and the ask volume, knowing that stock, having experience, you know where that thing is probably going to trigger, okay? Depending upon the stock. Of course, if it's a large cap, high volume is going to be much different than a smaller cap, not as high volume. There's going to be variations, but I know the deal. And it's pretty amazing, but I can tell you just off the top of my head, probably 85 to 90% of the time, at the lower part of that price, okay? I get the lower end of that price. And that's enough to tell me that there's a big problem going on. And so, anyway, I mean, this is why, you know, it pisses me off. You got these fucking stooges, these controlled opposition pinheads like Michael Lewis talk about stupid-ass shit, high-frequency trading. That's fucking bogus. That's baloney. Anyone with at least half a brain who's been in the industry, and I don't mean some guy that's, I'm talking about someone who's been in the industry, boots on the ground, on the fucking battleground, not some financial advisor or CFP, you know, Mr. Salesman. I'm talking about people that know how the markets work. Okay, if you know how the markets really work, then you'll know that high-frequency trading is a fucking joke for most people. It only comes into play for huge funds, okay? Funds against funds. But for retail investors, this doesn't matter jack shit, okay? As a matter of fact, think about this for a second. Think about this for a second. 2 points. And I'll get into this some other time, but the whole premise behind this whole high-frequency trading bullshit, nonsense, distraction, and of course it's being used as a distraction because they don't want to talk about the real problems, the real fraud that's really raping everybody, right? And Michael Lewis is a fucking pinhead. He obviously doesn't know what's going on, but he wants to sensationalize shit, and of course he's a Jew, so of course whatever he says, he'll get promoted so he can sell more books. Meanwhile, the typical stooge, sheep, American investor sits down and believes everything he says. Oh, well, he's helping us. Yeah. Okay, whatever. Yeah. So, let me just make 2 points about that. So, is there any problem between you, who may have just a normal internet connection, versus me, who I may have a T1 line? I'm getting faster order execution than you are, right? Of course I am. So, is that wrong? Is that bad? Well, one could say, sure it is. Others could say, no, it's not, right? I mean, I personally believe everyone should have the same speed, internet speed, but because these guys are looking for a faster way to connect to the exchanges to get the prices they want, what's the problem with that, right? And what does it matter to you? It doesn't matter jack shit to you. What you should be worried about are all the huge fees being charged, right, to your 401k that they're not being disclosed. What you should worry about are all the soft dollar arrangements being paid to fund managers, right, who are supposed to be managing your pension plan and all this other bullshit going on, all these other illegal payments under the table. What you should be worried about is all the billions and billions and billions of dollars of insider trading and other securities fraud that is going on every single day, and all the front running and all the other bullshit scams that CNBC is involved with. That's what you should be worried about, okay? That's what people need to be talking about. But no, Michael Lewis, he's not going to talk about that, because who do you think is selling his goddamn books? CNBC, the media. They're selling his fucking books. They're promoting him. Yeah, Michael Lewis. He's not going to tell you how criminal the media is. Even if the fucking pinhead knew it. And there's no way he can't know it. Doesn't take a fucking genius. It's pretty obvious. And the second way, or the second point, I guess, with high-frequency trading, with the reason why it's bullshit, is because, I don't know if many of you know this, but if you're working in a Wall Street firm, you know, a legitimate firm, a real firm, you're going to get access to the Reuters news feeds, okay? The Reuters news feeds. And if you have a Bloomberg terminal, you get access to the Bloomberg feeds, okay? That shit is all released in advance. Did you know that? Reuters sells their news feeds knowing that you get access to the latest headlines by, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 minutes in advance, relative to when it's posted on Google, on Yahoo, anywhere. Did you know that? Think about that. And some of those headlines, let me tell you something. They can move the markets. It happens all day, every day. So why isn't that being addressed? Isn't that a pretty obvious premeditated scam that's directly affecting all those who are not in the industry? That is really affecting people, okay? That's basically insider front running. If you're an insider, you work in the industry, you get to front run the stocks before the media pumps out the shit to the sheep, right? Think about that. I mean, this is known. This is not, I'm not telling you something that I had to, pick my brain and, oh my God. It's just, anyone with a clear mind that's been in the industry knows this. Now, I guess part of the problem is that you got a bunch of pinhead, potheads, and other drug-addicted morons in the industry, right? But these are the issues that need to be talked about, right? High-frequency trading? What a fucking joke. That's a fucking joke. Folks, believe me, if I thought that that was an issue for me or for you, you better believe, number one, I'd be talking about it. And number two, I'd be the first guy to have uncovered it. But it's nothing. It's a distraction. It's not even legitimate. There are many more toxic things going on than that. And I just gave you an inkling, gave you an example of that, right? There are many other issues. High-frequency trading is bullshit. It is meant to be a distraction, to distract you from what's really going on, because they don't want you to know the real truth, right? They want to position all this stupid, flimsy bullshit out there. Now, think about it. If I was concerned about it, I'd be talking about it. I'd be bitching about it. I'm just telling you the facts, folks. Okay? Just think about those Reuters feeds, okay? Think about those Reuters feeds that you get in advance and Bloomberg feeds. For Bloomberg terminal, you're talking towards around $2,000 a month for a terminal, okay? The Reuters, Thomson, I don't know what that is. I don't even know that you can get them as an individual, to be honest with you. I think that you have to be a brokerage firm. They do have some service that puts the stuff out, but I don't think it's the same one that the brokers are getting. I mean, I'm telling you right now, I used to watch that shit all day, okay? I know how much that influences the market on a daily basis. I used to watch that shit all day and look at how it moved the stocks, okay? That's a big problem. And that's been going on for decades. And you don't hear anyone talking about that. Think about that, folks. Why am I the only person that's always bringing up these things? Is it because they don't exist and I'm a nut? I don't think so. I mean, think about it. Is it because everyone else is so stupid and they just can't figure it out? Well, I don't think that's accurate. I think there's a lot of stupid morons out there in the industry, but I don't think that that's inclusive of the reason, right? I think that it's because they don't want to expose the situation. They don't want to expose the situation. So what they do is they position some numbskull out there that creates some bullshit distraction, right? So that people aren't really focused on the real problems. Anyway, that's all I have to say for today.